Welcome back mga kapasya! Nandito na naman po tayo sa isa pang episode ng SRHR Roundups webcast. Your stories and conversations on sexual and reproductive health and rights in the Philippines. Ako po si Teta ng WGNRR.
At ako naman si Chief ng WGNRR. Pasya PH is your channel on the latest updates on sexual and reproductive health and rights in the Philippines. Kaya we invite everyone to help support women and girls and always be informed and help them make informed choices on their body, health, and lives free from discrimination, stigma, and violence.
Yes, of course, Pasya PH is managed by Women's Global Network for Reproductive Rights, and our webcast for today is brought to us by the She Project with the support of Oxfam and Global Affairs Canada. Chief, ano ba yung mga latest na nangyari for the last week since the webcast?
Yes, hello Ms. Tets, hello sa ating mga kapasya. Since we went live last week, which was also the International Day for Elimination of Violence Against Women, or IDVAW, and the start of the 16 Days of Activism campaign, where we launched our Safer in Solidarity campaign. Marami na rin naging activities ang ating mga partner organizations and networks. So of course, we have this What is VAWG na parang naging panimula ng mga teach-ins natin with our young SRHR advocates last November 28. We also had a care session for advocates to check in on their mental health, which is very important, lalo na that we're coming into the 16 days, diba? 16 days of activism. And also, of course, we support activities related to SRHR, especially with regard to mga issues that deal with institutional violence because of denial of SRHR. And earlier lang, kaninang mga around 1 p.m., we also partnered with University of the Philippines, Visayas to hold this activity, the VAW in Humanitarian or Crisis Settings Backward Experience, a Zoomversation with Ms. Samira Gutok. So, ayun. That was with the University of the Philippines Gender and Development Office as well as the OGSAD Regional Center.
Yes, of course. Actually, meron din tayong ibang mga events with other partners, right?
Yes, actually madami pang mga events. So we always encourage our mga kapasya to follow our page and keep updated. And I'll talk about more of these events later towards the end of the program, lalo na yung mga upcoming kasi meron pa tayong mga iilang teach-ins within the 16 days of activism. After all, meron pa tayong 10 days siguro or so of activism to look forward to. Of course, we also have our profile picture campaign. Our young advocates came up with this profile photo frame, and everyone who wants to show their solidarity with advocates and allies in this campaign, please feel free to use this profile photo. You just go to our page, you'll find it there. And also, we continue to support our mga in-campus organization partners like the Sanctuary Project and Sigma Alpha Nu Sorority. They've also been active with their own campaigns and efforts disseminating awareness on gender-based violence and violence against women. Aside from these activities, of course, within the 16 days of activism, we have other days of observances na that we observe. First, last November 29, we have the International Day for Women Human Rights Defenders, where we highlighted the responsibility of the state to eliminate VAW, including VAW against women human rights defenders. Also, yesterday, December 1, was World AIDS Day, where we emphasize naman ending all forms of violence against women and girls living with HIV, because that's hindi siya na-emphasize as much, because the denial of their SRHR is a form of institutional violence. So again, that's our SRHR Roundups for this week. Towards the end of this episode, I'll be giving you more updates on upcoming events, so watch out for that.
Thank you, Chief, para dun sa mga update on what happened for the last 6 days Sa atin, WGNRR, as a global organization, we use the 16 days of activism against GBV. Pero alam niyo po ba mga kapasya that in the Philippines, it's known as also the 18-day campaign to end violence against women. And to know more about this campaign and why we are having this campaign, we are very happy that we have special guests today to talk more about this and the situation at hand. Please help me welcome the Deputy Executive Director of Philippine Commission on Women, Ma'am Maria Kristine Balmes. Hello po!
Hi, good afternoon, Teta. Hi, Chef. Good afternoon, Kristine na lang. Masyadong mahaba pangalan ko eh. Yes, pagkataang twister pa. Oo.
Maraming salamat po for joining us at marami kaming mga tanong and we are very excited na malaman ito from PCWE. Go ahead, Chef.
Yes, Ma'am Kristine, again, thank you so much for accepting our invitation to come on our program. Last week, we discussed violence against women and how it's a human rights violation and basically parang defining lang this concept. But now, it's such a great opportunity to have you here with us to really contextualize this issue. So ano po ba yung vow situation dito sa Pilipinas? At siguro para considering na we're also in a pandemic context, ano po yung nagbago since from before COVID-19 and then after?
Well, Chef, let me start siguro with I will give you a parang background on what the PNP has recorded in the last 5 years on the data of the number of VAU cases. So in 2015, there were 47,063 recorded cases of VAU, and in the years that followed, it dropped. But it can be said that the recorded cases are still very high. In 2016, there were 31,903 cases. There were 20,652 cases of VAU in 2018, and 20,330 cases in 2019. The highest case of violence is VAU-C, or violence against women and their children, or abuses committed under intimate partner relationship. Wag natin niyang kalimutan. Babalikan ko yan mamaya. Next highest is rape, and then acts of lasciviousness is the third one, and then there is concubinage, sexual harassment, abduction, and then seduction. So let us now take a look at the situation of VAU during the COVID-19 pandemic. Siguro interesado kayo kasi alam naman natin na we are all stuck in our homes during this pandemic. So meron kasing general assumption that VAU is increasing during the pandemic. In other countries, the incidence of VAU continued to rise despite the pandemic. In Brazil, there was a 22% increase in complaints received by their national VAU helpline, and 33% increase naman in complaints through calls sa Singapore. And reports of domestic violence in France also increased by 30%. Pero ano ba yung situation sa Pilipinas? Since the implementation of quarantine measures in the country, the PNP has recorded 12,508 VAU and VAC cases, or violence against children cases. This shows a drastic decrease in the number of reported cases of VAU-C. Of these cases, 8,204 were committed against women aged 18 and up, and 4,304 were cases of violence committed against children. If we take a closer look, this has no difference from the 2015 to the 2019 data, since the highest type of abuse is still VAU-C, or violations under RA 9262, and rape followed with 4,421 cases, and acts of lasciviousness with 1,631 cases. Pero it is alarming that rape cases are high among children, were 3,264, or 74% of the total rape cases are now recorded during the pandemic. But as I said earlier, the recorded cases decrease there is recorded decrease in cases during the pandemic, which can be attributed naman to some of these following factors. First, kasi nga may restricted movement in communities, so hirap yung victim. Next, may suspension of public transportation na although ngayon medyo maluwag na, pero mahirap pa rin for a victim to really travel from her residence dun sa pupuntahan niyang kung saan niya gustong mag-report. And then victims being monitored by perpetrators as they are confined in one home, di ba? Usually kasi it happens in the house, so hindi siya makalabas and kasama niya yung perpetrator, so mahirap talaga para lumabas. And the survivors find it harder to seek help and access vow support through the regular channels since medyo restricted nga yung actions. If wala kang internet or hindi mo alam kung ano yung tatawagan mo, mahirap talaga. Which leads us to the next reason na lack of information on where and how to report. And lastly, yung kahit naman may pandemic o wala, there is fear of the victims to report due to possible repercussions. So yun yung situation natin ng vow ngayon sa Pilipinas.
Ma'am Kristine, even before the pandemic, it's always been said na yung violence against women and children is a case na always underreported. Hindi talaga natin alam yung buong situation or parang yung extent. To some, parang pag binabanggit lagi yun pag bumababa yung reporting ng cases, it could be attributed also to parang successes of our advocacies. At the same time, kahit tumaas yung cases, pwede ding tingnan na dahil mas nagiging empowered mag-report ang mga survivors. So in a way, hindi din talaga natin masabi like if it really went down or what.
Actually, sa Interagency Council on Violence Against Women and Their Children, o IAC-VAUC, ang indicator na sinusunod namin is yung increase of reported vow cases. Mas gusto naming tumaas yung mag-report. Hindi sa gusto naming mas marami ang biktima, pero what we want is mas maging empowered yung mga kababaihan at saka mas magkaroon sila ng feeling of security na pwede silang lumapit sa mga agencies that are there to help them. So yun yung indicator na ginagamit namin sa IAC-VAUC.
Tamang-tama po. When you mention that, we'd also like to know, ano po yung mga policies and laws that are there to protect women and children against violence?
So we have a lot. Actually, let me start with yung the anti-rape law or RA 8353. So the anti-rape law which states that rape violates a person's well-being and not just one's virginity or purity. It is also a public offense and anyone who has knowledge of the crime may file a case on the victim's behalf. May update kami dito. Yesterday lang, it was passed on third reading sa Congress, yung increasing the age of statutory rape. So, kasi ngayon, 12 years old yung age nung para mo sabihin na statutory rape siya. So, ang Congress, ang House of Representatives, nag-pass na sila na ini-increase na siya to 16. And we are hoping and advocating na sana yung Senate will do the same in the nearest future. Sana umabot sa Congress na to para mapasa na siya at ma-increase na talaga siya to 16. And then there's RA 8505 or the Rape Victim Assistance and Protection Act, where the state is to provide necessary assistance and protection for rape victims. It shall coordinate its various agencies and non-government organizations to work hand in hand for the establishment and operation of a rape crisis center. Dito naman binibigyan ng minamandate ang mga agencies and also the non-government organizations to provide help and aid to our rape victims. And there is RA 7877, the Anti-Sexual Harassment Law. Kanina kung maalala nyo, sinabi ko na ito yung law kasi na nagmamandate na dapat yung mag-cause sa'yo ng sexual harassment is a person of authority, influence, or moral ascendancy. This law, however, was parang amended siya or strengthened by RA 11313, which is the Safe Spaces Act. Yung pinakabago natin itong batas. Kasi dito, whether mas mababa sa'yo yung rango or whether friend mo or anybody, pwede mo na silang kasuhan under the Safe Spaces Act. Ito naman yung an act defining gender-based sexual harassment in streets, public spaces, online workplaces, schools, and training institutions. And during this 18-day campaign sa December 9, DILG and PCW will be coming up with a joint memorandum circular on the localization of this Safe Spaces Act. Anong ibig sabihin nito? Ang mga local government units will be mandated to come up with their own version of the said act. Bakit importante na magkaroon sila ng sariling version? Kasi iba-iba tayo ng definition ng public spaces. Iba-iba tayo ng itsura ng workplaces. Kasi kung nasa rural area ka, pwede mo sabihin yung workplace mo is nasa bukid, di ba? Kung farmer ka. Pwede rin naman yung public places, meron kasing mga lugar na hindi present sa lahat. So ang gusto sana nung localization is ma-cover niya kung ano talaga yung within your jurisdiction. And then we have RA 9208, the Anti-Trafficking in Persons, which mandates that recruitment, obtaining, hiring, providing, offering, transportation, transfer, maintaining, harboring, or receipt of persons with or without the victim's consent or knowledge within or across national borders. So ito yung mga, marami to yung sa illegal recruitment, yung mga nagtatakas ng mga babae o tinatransport sila, making you believe na bibigyan ka ng ganitong trabaho pero iba pala yung gagawin mo. So kasama siya dito. And then RA 9995, the Anti-Photo and Video Voyeurism Act. Ito naman yung unauthorized taking of photo or video of anyone performing sexual act or any similar activity or to capture an image of the private area, naked or kahit may undergarment, public area, the buttocks or female breast without the consent of the persons involved and under circumstances in which the persons or the person has have a reasonable expectation of privacy. So ito medyo common ito ngayong mga panahong ito. And then of course we have RA 9710, the Magna Carta of Women. Ito naman yung nag-create sa Philippine Commission on Women, and this is also a comprehensive women's human rights law that seek to eliminate discrimination through the recognition, protection, fulfillment, and promotion of the rights of Filipino women, especially those belonging in the marginalized sectors of the society. It also conveys a framework of rights of women based directly on international law, which is the CEDAW. Familiar naman siguro kayo sa CEDAW. And then on Chapter 4, Section 9 of the Magna Carta of Women, it is mandated that the state shall ensure that all women shall be protected from all forms of violence as provided for in existing laws, and agencies of government shall give priority to the defense of and protection of women against gender-based offenses and help women attain justice and healing. And lastly, yung RA 9262, the Anti-Violence Against Women and Their Children, this protects the family, particularly women and their children, from violence and threats based on fundamental freedoms guaranteed under the Philippine Constitution and the CEDAW, the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, and also the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and other international instruments. So ano ba yung kasama nitong anti-VAUSI law? Any act or series of acts committed by any person against a woman, pero dapat siya ay wife o former wife or partner with sexual or dating relationship, or a woman with whom he has a common child. Or pwede rin naman ito against her child, pwedeng legitimate or illegitimate, and within or without the family above. Pwedeng hindi kasama sa bahay. So VAUSI is a public crime. Ibig sabihin, pwedeng magsumbong kahit hindi yung biktima. And meron siyang prescriptive period na 10 years for psychological, mental, and sexual abuse and 20 years for physical. So kahit 20 years na yung nakaraan, pwede mo pa rin isumbong o i-complain yung iyong perpetrator from the date of the occurrence of the crime. So VAUSI incidents may be prosecuted upon filing of a complaint by any citizen having personal knowledge of the circumstances of the crime. So yun. Medyo madami na rin tayong batas.
Yes. Thank you so much for sharing that po, Ma'am Kristine. Ano talaga, no, even in the global arena, Philippines is really known to having a lot of laws that protect women and children. But let me just ask po, how are we faring in terms of implementation of these laws and mga mechanisms na for under these laws? What is there pa that needs to be done to ensure na these laws really serve its purposes?
Well, medyo madami tayo niyan. So first, let's talk about the legal remedies for VAUSI victim survivors through the protection orders. Ito minsan kasi malimit, ito yung hindi nalalaman ng ating mga victims na pwede silang kumuha ng protection orders. So may tatlong klase yung yung protection orders. Una, pwede kayong humingi ng barangay protection order sa inyong punong barangay or sa kagawad or sa VAU desk officer nyo, which is supposed to be also a kagawad of the barangay. Yung effectivity nito is 15 days and valid ito within the jurisdiction of the barangay. So, ibig sabihin, in 15 days, hindi ka pwedeng lapitan o hindi pwedeng pumasok ng barangay yung perpetrator. Ang issuance niya is within 24 hours and it's served personally to the respondent by the punong barangay or the kagawad. Wala itong bayad dapat para sa victim survivor. Pag na-violate ito ng responder, pwede siyang makulong for 30 days without prejudice to any other criminal or civil action. Next, ang isa pang klase ng protection order, meron tayong temporary protection order. Ito naman ay ini-issue ng court. Ang validity naman ito ay 30 days kahit saan sa Pilipinas. Ibig sabihin, hindi pwedeng lumapit sa'yo anywhere in the Philippines within 30 days yung perpetrator. So ang issuance niya, ex parte determination on the date of filing of application and served by the court sheriff. So no definite amount, pwede rin hindi ka na pagbayarin o pwedeng i-waive itong fee para dito. If violated, the constitute contempt of court without prejudice to criminal or civil action, pwedeng magbayad ng 5,000 to 50,000 or 6-month imprisonment yung perpetrator. And lastly, meron tayong permanent protection orders. Ito ay issued din ng court and effective until revoked by the court. So ibig sabihin, pwede itong mahabang panahon, depende sa korte. And then the issuance is after notice and hearing to be conducted in 1 day, served by the court sheriff din. So wala din siyang definite amount, pwede rin siyang ma-waive ng court. And pag na-violate mo naman siya, pwedeng magbayad ang perpetrator ng 5,000 to 50,000 din and 6-month imprisonment. So ano pa ba? Sino ba yung pwedeng mag-file nitong mga protection orders? Una, victim survivor. Pangalawa, parents or guardians of the victim survivor. And then, ascendants, descendants, relatives up to the 4th degree. Pwede rin na maghabla mismo ang DSWD social worker o kaya yung mismong pulis na pagsusumbungan ng victim. Pwede rin ang punong barangay o kaya ang kagawad at pwede rin ang abogado o counselors or therapist at pwede rin ang healthcare provider. At least 2 concerned responsible citizens of the city or municipality where the violence was committed. So pwedeng hindi niya talaga kaano-ano, pwedeng kaibigan, pero nandun sila within one jurisdiction. So victims can also avail of the 10-day VAUSI leave. So kung ikaw ay naging biktima ng VAUSI, pwede kang mag-avail ng 10-day VAUSI leave. Ito ay paid leave given to victim survivors and shall be used to cover the days within the victim has to attend to the medical or legal concerns and can be extended as necessary. Yung extension naman with beyond the 10-day period shall not be paid and may be charged against the victim's leave credits kung meron pa, and neither cumulative nor convertible to cash. So, yon. And then, meron din tayo mga service providers naman as another form of mechanism. So, nandyan yung PNP, Women and Children Protection Desk. So, this is present in all police stations nationwide and is handled by women police officers trained to manage VAU cases. Meron din tayong PNP Violence Against Women and Their Children Division o PNP VAU-CD, Primary Division of PNP WCPC, tasked with the conduct of investigation and operations against offenders of violence against women and their children. And meron tayong Women and Children Protection Units. Ito naman, they provide medical assistance to victims in coordination with LGUs and other government health facilities. Ang NBI ay may sariling Anti-Violence Against Women and Their Children Division. Ito naman ay a team of NBI investigators and agents handling cases of violence against women and children. And then ang DSWD, they have the Centers and Residential Care Facilities for Women and Girls, or CRCF. This provides temporary shelter, protection, care, treatment, and rehabilitation of victims for victims of sexual, physical, and emotional abuse. And then meron tayong local social welfare and development offices. They provide psychosocial and reintegration services naman to our VAU victims. And yung prosecution offices, which provide legal assistance through the services of DOJ, NBI, the Public Attorney's Office, and the courts. And meron tayo sa Congress natin na House Committee on Women and Gender Equality. Sa Senate naman ay Senate Committee on Women, Family Relations, and Gender Equality. At sa local level, meron tayong Sangguniang Panlalawigan, Panlunsod o Pambayan Sangguniang Committee on Women, Youth, and Family Welfare. So, meron din tayong mechanisms and communication flowchart in the national, from the national to the local level. IFLC Council stands at the national level, while committees were established to manage the implementation of anti-VAUC initiatives in the regions down to the municipal level. Ang tawag sa kanila ay RCAT-VAUC, PCAT-VAUC, MCAT-VAUC, at CCAT-VAUC. Kasi pagdating sa local level, magkasama yung VAU at saka trafficking in person. Na yung ating AYACAT at saka AYAC-VAUC. Pero sa national, medyo walay kasi siya. So sa ngayon, we have 45 PCAT-VAUCs, 1,489 MCAT-VAUCs, and 115 CCAT-VAUC. Ano ba yung difference niya? Siyempre yung isa, yung RCAT-VAUC, sa region siya, mas marami siyang minomonitor at ino-oversee, like RA 9208, RA 9262, RA 9775. Pagdating naman sa PCAT-VAUC, focus siya talaga on RA 9262. At sa LCAT-VAUC naman, pareho lang sila ng PCAT-VAUC, RA 9262. Hindi na ako masyadong mag-expound dito. Oo, kasi medyo mahaba siya. And lastly, meron tayong mga frontliners pagdating sa VAU. Ito yung mga barangay VAU desk officers. Sila yung ating frontline service provider to victim survivors in the local level and managed by a VAU desk officer designated by the punang barangay. As of now, we have 39,093 out of the 42,045 barangays, or 93%. Kaya lang po, hindi pa naman lahat sila fully functional. Iba-iba sila ng kumbaga functionality. And the DILG came out with the guidelines last year para i-check yung kanilang functionality. So hopefully by this year or next year makapag-report ng DILG kung ilan talaga yung functional or fully functional na barangay vouchers.
This is really very important, Ma'am Kristine, for our viewers out there or someone who's a survivor or going through it to know na meron silang pwedeng mapuntahan. And there are actually people in different levels na pwede silang lapitan. Sa experience po sa Philippines, nabanggit nyo na kanina na yung lack of information really could hinder someone from seeking justice or getting help. Maliban po doon, ano pa usually yung mga nag-influence sa decision ng isang survivor to seek help?
Ano pa yung mga nag-i-influence? Well, karamihan kasi talaga, they listen to their peers. Yung based doon sa mga reports na if may nagpupush sa kanila to really report the cases, nagkakaroon sila ng lakas ng loob. But yung ating campaign, itong 18-day campaign, and the 16-day campaign that you are doing. Nakakatulong kasi siya. And meron kasi kami pinapromote sa Philippine Commission on Women, yung Men Opposed to Violence Everywhere, yung MOVE, na mga kalalakihan naman siya na nagsasama-sama at tumutulong sa Philippine Commission on Women para i-promote na dapat yung mga lalaki din among themselves, sila yung magpuli sa kapwa nila lalaki at sila din yung mag-push na i-empower ang mga kababaihan para magkaroon sila ng lakas ng loob na i-complain itong mga perpetrators natin.
Meron po tayong question mula kay Danica. Paano po sa mga instances na yung survivor o yung victim ayaw niyang magsumbong sa barangay? Especially kunyari kung partner niya or family niya yung gumawa o nag-perpetrate. Kasi sabi niyo po kami sa public.
Pwede na siyang dumiretso sa police.
Okay. Pero may mga kaso po ba? For example, like sabi niyo, someone else could file. Pero pag ayaw ng victim, then the case will not progress? Ganun po ba yun?
Hindi. It will still progress. Kung merong evidences yung nag-file for the victim, matutuloy pa rin siya. And kasi yung, although yung mismo kasing victim, evidence na siya by herself. Hindi na niya kailangan ng ebidensya. Yung kanyang sole statement, it will be taken sa court as an evidence. Pero kung yung kaibigan niya ang nagsumbong for her o kaya kanyang pamilya o parents niya, hahanap sila ng iba pang witness. Pero I think hindi talaga siya mawawala unless siguro magkasundo sila. But take note lang, sa barangay kasi o kahit sa police station, bawal kasing i-mediate ang vow cases. Hindi sila pwedeng pagbatiin ng barangay at saka ng police. Hindi pwedeng mediator ang vow desk officer, ang barangay captain, or ang police.
Pero sa naalala ko in one of the activities namin, may mga ganun kwento, lalo na kung yung away mag-asawa, yung ganun na pinagbabate sa loob ng barangay, lalo na kung
bawal kasi siya talaga. Although meron ngayon nagpupush to amend the RA 9262 kasi sabi nila, kung economic down lang naman yung abuse, baka daw pwedeng pagbatiin, pwedeng immediate. Pero if physical, hindi talaga kasi pwede. At saka emotional and psychological. May naglalabi lang na group na baka yung economic abuse pwedeng immediate.
Sa lahat po ng accountability mechanisms na to, what is the role of PCW in particular?
Well, the Philippine Commission on Women is the national machinery on gender equality and women's empowerment, and we conduct policy studies. Kami yung nag-aaral ng mga batas at nagsusulong ng mga batas sa ating mga legislators to make sure that the legislations integrate women's concerns. It also monitors and assesses the implementation of the laws and policies on women, and likewise, we provide technical services and ensures that development of institutional capabilities of gender and development, mainstreaming of government agencies and selected partners. Kung familiar kayo sa GAD budget, na 5% ng lahat ng budget ng gobyerno, kami yung nagmo-monitor nun to the GAD budget and planning. So, we make sure na na-integrate sa mga agencies yung gender and development. Also, the PCW is the in-house amin yung Interagency Council on Violence Against Women and Their Children Secretariat. So yung Secretariat, they coordinate and monitor under the direction of the Council the implementation of the policies and guidelines promulgated by the IAC Council. And they also assist in establishing, maintaining, and managing central databases on VAUC. And they provide technical, secretariat, and records keeping and other services to the council. And also, nagbibigay din ng technical assistance ang IAC pagdating sa regional level at saka sa ibang local level. Although medyo limited kasi yung number of human resource namin, so medyo hirap kami sa pagbibigay ng technical assistance. And just recently, dahil nga nitong pandemic, nagkaroon kami ng hotline sa PCW where we have two dedicated mobile numbers na pwedeng tawagan. Makikita nyo to sa ating Facebook, sa aming Facebook account. Pwedeng tawagan, i-text, or kahit through our Facebook page, pwede kayong magbigay ng inyong complaint. And we, bilang secretariat, we make sure na yung referral system ng Ayak-Vauci Council ay magfa-function to help and aid the victim.
Have you been getting reports po sa hotline?
Ay, napakadami actually. Last year, we had a total of 91 reports. Pero since the pandemic nung March hanggang ngayon, we have 236 reports already.
Which brings us to the importance of the campaign that you are doing this year. Right, Chief? Gusto nating malaman kung ano yung mga activities and why this theme? Bakit? Ano yung particular na focus for the 18-day campaign? Actually, we'd love a short background. Why is it called 18
days? Yeah. Sige. So, briefly, the campaign supports the Philippine government's goal of protecting the human rights of women and girls by upholding its commitment to address all forms of gender-based violence as enshrined in the 1987 Constitution. So, i-trace back natin yung roots. We start with year 1991, the start of the global 16-day action against gender-based violence. And the observance of the campaign started on November 25, which is the international day to eliminate VOW, up to December 10. Yan yung sinabi nyo kanina, yung pinakita nyo kanina. Ito din yung International Human Rights Day, yung December 10, to emphasize that VOW is a human rights violation and to ensure better protection of survivors and victims of violence. And then in year 2002, the Philippine government, led by PCW, of course, joined the global campaign, the platform to amplify lobbying for laws against VOW. And then in 2006, si PGMA, si President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, issued Presidential Proclamation 1172, extending the national campaign to 18 days. Ini-include na nito in December 12, which is a historic date that marked the signing of the year 2000 of the UN Protocol to Prevent, Suppress, and Punish Trafficking in Persons. Kaya siya naging 18 days, especially for women and children, to supplement the UN Convention against transnational organized crimes. And then in 2008, United Nations Secretary General launched the Unite to End VOW campaign, which envisions a world free from all forms of violence against women and girls. And 2013 naman, nagkaroon tayo ng RA 10398, which declared November 25 of every year as the National Consciousness Day of the Elimination of VOWC. So, ina-encourage nito ang government agencies to raise awareness on the problem of violence and the elimination of all forms of violence against women and children. And this year, the 2020 campaign comes at a time when the country is dealing with the COVID pandemic and the health crisis not only affected marginalized and vulnerable sectors the most, but also aggravated underlying gender issues related to VOW and GBV. So among the challenges encountered with the management of the pandemic is the need to strengthen the functionality of the barangay VOW desk. Kaya po meron tayo ngayon na nangyayaring talakayan. Mamaya i-discuss ko pa siya further. As the first responder of VOW and GBV in the community, yung mga VOW desk officers natin are expected to be fully equipped and capacitated. And the 2020 campaign shall highlight the essence of the barangay as an internal part of the VOW-free community in consonance with our recurring theme during this Duterte administration, which is the VOW-free community starts with me. And adopting the theme VOW-free community starts with me from 2016 to 2021, the campaign emphasizes everyone's commitment and contributions on ending VOW and presents an ideal picture of a VOW-free community, thus inspiring the general public to make a personal commitment to end violence against women and children. And ang nasabi ko nga kasi kanina, meron kaming iba't ibang activities ngayong 18-day campaign. So meron kaming distribution of IEC materials. Kanina, nasa Pasig ang aking mga kasamahan at nagbigay ng IEC materials kay Mayor Pico. Hindi ako nakasama. Sayang.
Sana all.
Di ba? Sana all. And then last Sunday, we launched the Vow Puppet web series. May mga in-introduce kami mga bagong characters ng aming mga puppets. And then meron kaming ongoing online advocacy. Yung Orange Your Icon campaign. Ang ating Manila National Museum ay nag-orange ng kanilang ilaw sa harap ng kanilang mga museums noong November 25 to support our Orange Your Icon campaign. And yung ating online talakayan series na nag-focus sa vow-free barangays. Actually, kanina lang ay nagkaroon tayo ng session. Ang title ng session ay Bawal Yan. For the barangays to know their rights under the Anti-Vowsy Act. So meron pa tayong ibang sessions on December 4. Yun namang barangay malalapitan at maaasahan, capacitating barangay vow desk. And then on December 9, yung bawal bastos dito. Ito yung, i-discuss dito yung Anti-Sexual Harassment Law and the Safe Spaces Act. Dito rin magkakaroon ng parang ceremonial signing ng Joint Memorandum Circular and the localization of the Safe Spaces Act. And then sa December 12 naman, human, hindi laruan, laws against trafficking in persons naman yung pag-uusapan natin. So medyo busy kami talaga during these 18 days. And then we have different collaterals that can be downloaded in the PCW website. Pero nakita ko meron kayong sariling Facebook frame. Pero since 16 day lang yon, yung last 2 days, gamitin nyo naman yung frame natin.
Yes po. Yes. Well, now that you've mentioned it, when we did think of the campaign, we thought of how do we complement the existing campaigns nationally. Yes, because yung PCW and the government and all your partners are also doing focus on what we could do. So naisip namin, okay, we also think of how we can do it together. So yung pick up po namin na team was solidarity, because yung physically distant tayo sa panahon na ganito. So ano pa yung paraan na we can actually work together even if with the physical distance. May tanong lang po ako tungkol sa barangay na I have experiences of looking into the protection laws of children and women. Tapos napansin namin noon na parang ito yung mga batas on the national level. But when it comes to implementation, pababa ng pababa, lahat yan in terms of mechanisms ay nasa barangay. Darating sa barangay. Tapos so many laws out there. At the end of it all ay barangay ang gagawa. Tapos what PCW and partners are doing are capacitating our barangay, our frontliners in terms of skills and knowledge. Pero in terms of other resources po, ano pa po ba in terms of like suggestions ng PCW or what PCW hope to see na makapacitate ang ating mga barangay in terms of other resources? Kasi, di ba parang ang mga barangay po, limited lang din sa mga IRA o sa mga internal revenue allotments nila within the barangay. And the smaller and the more parang poverty-stricken na places, barangay could have less resources as well to implement activities.
Well, na-recognize namin yan. And ang isang ang malungkot is yung barangay vow desk officers kasi they only receive honoraria, which is very limited. So, alam mo yung medyo mabigat kasi yung nga lang makinig ka ng mga complaints at saka mga kaso o mga storya ng buhay ng mga kababaihan, mabigat na kasi yun. Tapos you are only being given an honoraria of 1,000 pesos a month. That's why we are encouraging sana na yung barangay councilors, kagawad na yung gawin nilang vow desk officers. And we are also encouraging na sana yung na-train na and na-capacitate na ng different government agencies, hindi na siya palitan kasi napakahirap na mag-retrain ng bagong vow desk officers. And, naglabas na din ang Philippine Commission on Women before ng memo na we are encouraging mga LGUs to also give naman, lalo na yung mga local chief executive, na mag-supportahan yung mga vow desk officers kasi they can give some form of honoraria para madagdagan man lang yung kanilang kinikita para ma-address yung ating mga vow cases. And also, yung kung narinig niyo na yung Mandanas ruling, it will increase the era of the local government units. Although hindi ganun kalaki sa ibang barangays, hindi ganun kalaki sa ibang LGUs, at least makikita natin na nagkakaroon ng improvement kasi diretso na sa kanila kaya mapupunta yung era, ibabalik sa kanila yung nakuha ng national government, which is I think about double their internal revenue allotments already. So makakatulong ito sa kanila, and the national government naman is still looking for ways para madagdagan yung mga benefits ng ating mga frontliners sa barangay level. And I agree with you, pagdating sa baba, medyo mahirap talaga na parang ang nangyayari, ang nirereklamo usually ng mga LGUs is ibinababa lang lahat ng national government pero hindi nag-aalat ng funds for them to implement the laws or the policies na gustong ipagawa sa kanila. So, we are trying our best, and sana yung Mandanas ruling can help them out also.
True. Kasi po, kahit yung sasabing 5% po nagad, kung 5% of a small budget, maliit din talaga siya. So we really hope also for the LGUs and the barangay to have those kind of resources. And thank you so much for all the work that PCW is doing kasi napaka-importante ng role ng PCW in terms of the programming, in terms of advising and guiding the national government, also in terms of what program should be there. Kasi tas kayo din yung PCW working with us, women's organizations, working with women in the community who really knows also the situation on the ground. Actually, meron po kaming message dito. Sama po ako next time with Mayor Vivi ko. Mag-volunteer po ako sa PCW. So mukhang magkakaroon po kayo ng maraming volunteer kung lagi sa Pasig lang, lagi, Danica.
Actually, tomorrow I'm going to Pasig. UNFPA is launching the Her Voice app. Medyo wala ako masyadong background pa kung ano yung ilo-launch nila na app, pero what I've heard is kapareho siya nung Vow Free PH app na supposed to be in-launch ng PCW, kaya lang nagkulang kami ng funding. Pero sana maganda siya if parang at one press of a button, may inform niya ang 3 of your nearest mga contacts. Tapos, i-inform din niya ang nearest police station. So, kulang kasi kami ng funding. So, sana ma-revive namin yung Vow Free PH app. And hopefully, yung Her Voice app makatulong din o makasupplement din para naman magkaroon din ng boses yung mga kababaihan natin na hindi makalabas ng bahay.
Yun pala, hindi lamang sa mga barangay, una po namin panawagan ang funding po na mas dagdag sa PCW para sa maraming mga efforts na to. Yes, thank you so much, Ma'am Kristine. So, ibig sabihin yung campaign na Vow Free Community Starts With Me, we expect this and we will work together with this in a 3, at least strategically hanggang 2021. Tama.
Yes, hanggang 2021.
So, more. Yes, kahit naman ang aming frame ngayon ay stronger or safer in solidarity. After nito, please expect WGNR and our partners to work with you, and we hope to get in touch and how we can contribute to the campaign of PCW. And we also excited din kami to yung sinasabi natin to strengthen the resources meron sa local levels. Maraming salamat po for joining us. Ang nakausap po natin and very kindly shared with us all those information, the Deputy Executive Director of Philippine Commission on Women, Ma'am Kristine, bago po namin kayo let go. Baka isa pong message, a child, a girl, a woman out there could be watching us and thinking of should I seek help or should I get help? Ano po yung advice natin sa kanya at ano po yung mga pwede niyang gawin, lalo na kung if she is living with someone na she doesn't feel safe with?
To all the women out there at yung kahit ang ating mga kabataang babae, I am calling on you na there is already a system that the government has laid out for all the victims of violence against women and also their children. It is only up to you to empower yourselves para tawagan or mag-email or kahit kung wala kayo talagang lakas ng loob, find someone, a friend, a relative, a family member para ipaalam sa gobyerno kung ano yung inyong nararanasan. We are here to help. Sabi ko nga, kanina, ang IAC-VAUSI, ang indicator namin is not bumaba yung reported cases. It is to increase the number of reported cases because that means na nagtitiwala na kayo sa gobyerno, nagtitiwala kayo sa sistema, and nagtitiwala kayo sa mga binibigay at pinoprovide na services ng ating government para sa inyo. And also, of course, with the help of NGOs like WGNRR. So, sana sama-sama tayo to achieve at the soonest a vow-free community so that we could raise awareness, build capacities, and have practical activities and have a strong institution that would advocate and be partners of this campaign. So again, good afternoon, everyone, and here's to a vow-free PH to all of you.
Thank you po.
Maraming salamat.
Kristine Balmes of PCW. Thank you po. Ayun, very important para sa akin yung mga shinare ni Ma'am Kristine kasi yung ang dami, ganito pala lahat ng mga mechanisms na available. And also for us advocates.
First time ko rin makita yung data na parang naka-layout talaga. So, nakakatuwa rin and comforting for me na malaman na yung gusto pala nila makita is yung high na reporting. At syempre, dito sa Pasya, we should keep track and monitor this data, no?
Tapos yung nakita mo, ganito kung madaming levels, sa mga nakikinig na advocates, importante din para sa atin to know how we can actually support government efforts, how we can actually come together, saang mga mechanisms tayo pwedeng mag-solidarity. Kasi yung binabanggit nga ni Ma'am Kristine kanina, parang supporting or encouraging survivors. So you can go out, you can seek help. But as we know also, other than yung parang mga fear natin, o fear nila sa kanilang mga perpetrators, nandun kasi yung stigma against mga survivors. So yun din, we really it would need a community, na it needs a whole community, a whole nation to provide an environment na the survivors could really feel parang confident na they can seek help and go out. So yun, thank you so much again for the hard work of Philippine Commission on Women for joining us and then sharing that information kasi yung campaign ng 18-day the 18-day campaign and what we are doing also with WGNR, partly talaga is to give this information na meron pwedeng mga preventive and protection mechanisms that they can avail.
Yes. Yun. I think yan, kaya yung emphasis natin of course is yung solidarity and all of us coming together kasi it really takes entire communities to make sure yun nga, these systems work at nare-report ang mga ganitong cases ng BAO-C. So ayun, lalo na ngayong pandemic, we should really keep track on all of this. Of course, we're not done yet with our 16 days of activism at actually dahil nga sa reminder ni Miss Kristine, 18 days talaga yung action sa atin dito sa Philippines. Yes, dahil pabibo. Tuloy-tuloy natin ang ating mga campaigns. We still have activities in the coming days and weeks. So, of course, tuloy-tuloy ang Women's Celebration of Life and Faith 2020 ng Catholics for Our Age. They already had their virtual gathering last week, 25 and 26. Meron din today and then tomorrow. And then next week ulit. So, ayun. So, 6 sessions yon. Tuloy yung support natin to sa Lakniban or yung mga kabataan kontra karahasan. And tomorrow, they will have their How to Spot and Stop Sexual Abuse session with Miss Dawn Marie Castro of Young Feminist Collective. And then, of course, WGNRR is part of this panel, an international event building on the long-standing work of the international community of women living with HIV. So ito, you should also look forward to this, My Body, My Choice. You'll find all of these events on Pasya page and nandun din yung mga registration link, so we hope you register. We also have Safeguarding Against Sexual Violence by Times Up Ateneo and Southeast Asia Feminist Action Network, movement, and in partnership, of course, with WGNRR. And on Saturday, because hanggang Saturday meron tayong mga activities, we have the first episode of Kavulun Initiatives Ergo Babay, again in partnership with WGNRR and She Project, which is a discussion on gender-based violence, BAO, COVID-19, and disaster. So, di ba lahat ng kailangan nating pag-usapan at this time at yung mga pag-intersectionality ng mga context na issues na pinagdadaanan natin nandito, no? So, we're looking forward to everyone participating in our events and keeping informed on their sexual and reproductive health and rights. Again, this is SRHR Roundups. Thank you so much.
Maraming salamat. And for those who want to join and contribute to the campaign, please go and check the website and the Facebook page of Philippine Commission on Women to know more about how you can contribute to a vow-free PH and how we can start having a vow-free PH community starting with us. And of course, always in solidarity so that we can be safer together. Maraming salamat po and see you again next week.